and energy given in public service. Let us take a moment of silence now to turn our hearts towards the people we serve and the needs of our communities. Dear God, we thank you for our city of Peterborough and for all who live, work, and visit here. We pray for the peace of our local area, for harmony where there is difference, for fairness where there is injustice, for friendliness where there is hostility. May Peterborough be a place of flourishing and goodness, where each person is cared for and valued, and our natural environment is enabled to thrive and enhance the beauty of our city. We give thanks for this elected body. May it prevail at the heart of local government here and throughout the land. May our elected members, officers, and council staff put the welfare of the city above personal interest. Give all wisdom and strength for the task ahead. May a spirit of integrity and cooperation fill this chamber in all its deliberations. May the words spoken here tonight be words that build hope and kindle a fire of love for this wonderful place whose future we are entrusted with. Amen.
Thank you, councillors. Before we begin, I'd like to invite you to join me in the first of two 1-minute silences. The first one is in honour of former councillor Diane Lamb, who was also a cabinet member and was deputy mayor of the council, and who sadly passed away on May the 22nd. So I'd ask you to observe a 1-minute silence. Thank you. Thank you. And secondly, I'd ask you to hold a moment's silence to pay respect to those who were recently killed in the attacks in Nottingham. Also, those who lost their lives in Kalamata during the recent sinking disaster. And additionally, our thoughts are with those affected by the missing Ocean Gate Titan submarine. So I ask you to observe a further 1-minute silence. you, and if you'd like now to be seated. Right, just before we commence the meeting, I'd just like to ask if anybody has any objection to freelance photographer Terry Harris taking some photos. I'll take it that there are no objections to that. You've probably noticed that in accordance with the civic protocol, I'm exercising my discretion not to wear our robes, and I sort of urge you all in the light of the heat to dress in any way that you find comfortable. So I'd like to welcome you all and those in the public gallery to the meeting, and also welcome those watching on the live stream. So I'll now hand over to Rachel Edwards, the Head of Constitutional Service, who will go through some housekeeping points.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, can all those present please ensure that all mobile phones are set to silent? In the event of an evacuation, please exit through the doors on both sides of the chamber, following council staff to the assembly point. As per normal rules, if you wish to speak, please ensure that you raise your hand and you'll be invited to address the meeting. The Mayor has confirmed that he is happy for members to remain seated when addressing the chamber. All votes will be taken via an electronic voting system. If a recorded vote is requested, this will be taken in the normal way. There is a points of document. If you wish to raise a point, please raise the pink document and address the Mayor accordingly, stating which point you are raising. Finally, I would remind members that this meeting is being live streamed, so please make sure that when you speak, you are using your microphone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. So agenda item 1, are there any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. There are apologies from Councillor Rangzeb, Councillor Ayres, Councillor Skibsted and Councillor Saqib Farouk.
Thank you very much. Are there any further apologies? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you. So agenda item 2, are there any declarations of interest from councillors which are not already recorded separately on the member's individual register of interest? I'm not seeing any of the declarations, so thank you very much for that. Agenda item 3, I would like from the chair to move approval of the 2 sets of minutes from the meetings held on the 22nd of May 2023. Do I have a seconder for that proposal?
I'm happy to do that, Mr. Mayor.
So thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald, for that. If there are no further objections, I'll take that as agreed. In that case, it is agreed. Thank you. Okay, so we now move to the Mayor's announcements, which is agenda item number 4. As part of my announcements for this meeting, the Deputy Mayor and I will be remaking the declarations of office that we took at annual council, as unfortunately we found that an incorrect wording was actually used at annual council. Hand over to Chief Executive.
I invite the Mayor, Councillor Nick Sanford, to make his declaration of acceptance of office.
I, Nick Sanford, having been elected Mayor for the City of Peterborough, do hereby declare that I take the said office upon myself, and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties thereof according to the best of my judgment and ability. Where do I sign it?
I'd also like to invite the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Judy Fox, to make her declaration of acceptance of office.
I, Judy Fox, having been elected Deputy Mayor for the City of Peterborough, do hereby declare that I take the said office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties thereof according to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you very much for that. So moving on with the Mayor's announcements, I would like to inform members of a number of events that the Deputy Mayor and myself have attended recently. First of all, thanks to everyone who attended the Mayor's installation service in Peterborough Cathedral. I've participated in 3 citizenship ceremonies. I've presented prizes at the Peterborough Eco Awards. I attended a charity quiz night at Maharani's to raise money for Macmillan Cancer Care. We conducted the first of our once a month Meet the Mayor Open days at the Town Hall. And I'd just like to remind everybody that we are holding those once a month on the first Friday in the reception room between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. So please feel free to invite any of your constituents who would like to attend. We visited the Peterborough Lido with the council leader. We attended a Peterborough Schools Country Dancing Festival, which was held at the Peterborough School. We presented the prizes at the Peterborough Charity Dragon Boat Festival. We met the Portuguese Consul General and shared in some of the delights of the Portuguese festival. We visited a King's School art exhibition. We attended an International Women's Choral Festival, which was held in Peterborough Cathedral. We met with some representatives from a construction company called Burma Construction, and Councillor Nigel Simons attended that meeting too, and they gave us a very interesting account of some of the environmentally friendly construction techniques which they employ. And probably one of the most moving things that we've done in the last few weeks is last weekend we went to the Peterborough Museum and we attended an exhibition called Ukraine Calling, which featured art painted by wounded Ukrainian soldiers, and that was a really moving experience for all of us. And just one final point, you're probably all aware that this is Armed Forces Week, and there are going to be events held in Cathedral Square on Saturday in commemoration of Armed Forces Day. So I hope as many people as possible will be joining us for that. Thank you. So agenda item number 5, announcements from the leader. Councillor Fitzgerald, I understand you wish to make an announcement.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll rise for this if I may as well, just a bit more comfortable. So I'd like to begin this evening by welcoming Stephen Taylor, who's joined us 2 weeks ago as our new Executive Director of Adult Social Care. I know he's here in the chamber tonight. Stephen's got 30 years experience of working in health and social care and has held leadership roles across health and local government for 22 of these years. So prior to joining us, he was the Corporate Director of Adult Social Services and Interim Transformation Director at the London Borough of Islington, where he was leading and developing an ambitious change programme to increase independence and reduce the need for long-term care. I would also like to thank Debbie McQuaid, who stepped up to the role of Executive Director on an interim basis in January. Debbie is a huge asset to this council and will continue to work closely with Stephen as part of the leadership team he's running. By next full council, the 26th of July, we'll also have welcomed our new Executive Director of Children's Services, John Gregg. Their appointments mean that we'll now have a senior leadership team largely dedicated to Peterborough. Today, colleagues and I mark the first spades in the ground for the Living Lab, the second teaching building at ARU Peterborough. Not so long ago, the university itself was seen as wishful thinking by some. So it's a huge achievement that we're now getting ready to open phase 3. Interestingly today, colleagues, I also read an article, it's on Facebook, I'll post it later, from 1932 to 1953, where it talked about its growth and how people previously must have wondered how it was ever achieved, and by golly it was. The same thing is happening today. This ambitious third phase signals the demand and need for a larger campus to helping further to boost the skills and earning potential of our residents and bring the whole city more economic prosperity in the years to come. It's planned to open in autumn 24 and will be a publicly accessible interactive science facility and education space that aims to engage and inspire residents and visitors in science, technology, engineering and maths, STEM topics. I can't wait to see it open, and I'd like to thank the Mayor of the Combined Authority today and all the other people that turned up to mark the spades in the ground. Staying with the theme of higher education, I'd like to say a big well done to Peterborough College, Stamford College and the partnership provisions that form the Inspire Education Group. They've been rated good alongside the highest outcome of strong in meeting skills needs under the new enhanced Ofsted inspection for colleges and schools in England. This fantastic news follows the recent publication of the latest national achievement rate tables, which rank IEG in the top 3% of general further education colleges. That's 5th out of 168 colleges nationally for GCSE English and Maths. Also, I'm delighted to report that Peterborough has been ranked as the second most improved city in the Demos PwC Good Growth for Cities report, which was published last month. If you haven't managed to get a copy of that, I'm sure Matt will be able to provide a link, or Adrian will. The report gives an indication of how cities are responding to current challenges, steering towards growth and genuine levelling up. We've not done bad in that area. It measures change in jobs, income, health, transport and safety, to name a few. Overall, our city is 23rd out of 50, second for transport and above average for new businesses and the strength of our high street and shops. The fact that we are rising rapidly up in the ranks is testament to the growth and regeneration that we've seen in Peterborough in recent years. And again, I'll repost this article from 1953 on my Facebook. It really is worth a read. We've plenty of this still to come, with over £80 million of government funding on its way to the city through Levelling Up Fund and Towns Fund, and plenty more millions in private investment too. All this is proof that we are heading in the right direction and making great progress towards our goal of being a city of opportunity for all who live here. And finally, a few events to mention happening this week and next. Firstly, the remarkable contribution of the Windrush generation will be celebrated with a special flag-raising ceremony tomorrow. It celebrates the 75th anniversary of the HMT Empire Windrush arriving in Britain, bringing over 800 passengers from the Caribbean. Leading the ceremony will be the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Judy Fox, who will oversee a brief service culminating in the raising of the flag outside the Town Hall. The service will start at the front entrance at 9:45. All are welcome to attend. Following the ceremony, refreshments will be served in the Mayor's parlour. Then on to Saturday, live music and other attractions in Cathedral Square as Armed Forces Day returns to Peterborough. I hope to be there. On the same day, Peterborough Pride Group will be marching from Stanley Rec to the Green Backyard for 1 p.m. This week is also Refugee Week, a chance to highlight refugees' voices, celebrating their unique journeys and nurturing a sense of belonging in the city. Project O, I think it is, will be hosted at the Key Theatre on Saturday, and you can find out more on their website. And finally, Mr. Mayor, it's the next Ask the Leader session on Tuesday at 6:30. If you'd like to ask a question at that session, just please email asktheleader@peterborough.gov.uk by the end of tomorrow. That wraps it up, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. You did go half a minute over time, so I'll be equally flexible with
Blame my scriptwriter.
other group leaders. Thank you. So I now ask ask the leaders of the other party groups. You've got up to 1 minute in which to respond. So Councillor Jones is first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along with Wen, I'm delighted to welcome Steve and now with John joining us presently to the city. We're gathering a corporate leadership team that will work well for the people of Peterborough, so a warm welcome from the Labour Group, and be assured that I and my colleagues will do everything we can to support your efforts on behalf of adult and children's social services. Again, in respect of ARU Peterborough, this is a welcome development for the city, and we look forward to watching and hopefully being part of their success. Having in terms of the college, having lectured at the college as a variable hours lecturer, which is a 0 hours contract for also rans like me, it's heartening to see the college coming on in leaps and bounds, and long may it continue. In respect of the Demos PwC report, here the leader and I, our paths diverge slightly. Always happy to see us moving up the rankings of every league table, and one can only wonder how much further up the rankings we may have been had the wheels not fallen off economically and in terms of our governance 12, 18 months ago. We may never know. And in terms of regarding the events to mark the 75th anniversary of Windrush, Armed Forces Day and the Pride March, I can't let the moment pass without acknowledging the impact and contribution of all those groups on the social, economic and preservation of the history of our country, despite the prejudice and privations by two of those three groups. We wish their celebrations every success and the start of a new chapter in our Sceptred Isles' long and colourful history. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. You were 45 seconds over, but as I say, I'm being
Long as
flexible. Thank you. And now invite Councillor Hawke to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's great to see our director roles in adults and children's services finally filled. So a warm welcome to Stephen and obviously John as well when he arrives. Good to see the third phase of the university moving forward. Although I do feel that we could have handled the closing of the regional pool car park better, and I feel that that we've learnt the lessons from that. Great news that Peterborough is being recognised for its improvements due to work being done by our working officers in transforming how this council conducts itself. We are still mid-tier though, so we need to continue to push forward to realise the potential that this great city obviously has. I'm glad to see that we are honouring the Windrush generation and their families and recognising the contribution that they have played and continue to play in our society. Peterborough knows better than most what positive effects can be realised by welcoming people from across the globe who want to make their home here. This Saturday looks like a great day out for families with both the Armed Services Day and Pride coming to our town centre, and I urge all to come down and get involved. I'd personally like to also thank Councillor Fox for his hard work in putting this all together, and I know that Councillor Ray has now taken on the baton of champion. We're looking for good things for next year, Ryland. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. Now move to Councillor Harper for Peterborough First Group.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to keep it a lot shorter for you. I thank the leader for his positive news announcements today and extend a warm welcome on behalf of our group to Stephen and John, and many thanks to Debbie for all her hard work. We wish you all the very best success in your new roles. Indeed, it's great news regarding the university and the expansion work, and we look forward to more and more students going to the college and getting their degrees, etc. there. Huge congratulations to Peterborough College and Stanford College on their good grading. Again, it really bodes well for our city and for our students to be going to colleges that are rated at such a high level. Peterborough First would also like to extend our huge thanks to the Windrush generation and for all they have brought to our city and our country. This weekend we have, as has already been said, the Armed Forces Day, and this is an extremely important date in our city's calendar, not just for the veterans but also residents, and they should be there to thank all our service personnel for their service and sacrifice for our country. And I urge as many people as possible to attend this Saturday to show their support and enjoy the attractions. Similarly, we also welcome and support the Pride March and hope that goes well for them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harper. And finally, we have Councillor Nicola Day for the for the Green Party Group.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Green Group wish to welcome the new directors to their posts and we look forward to working with them. It is great news that we now have a senior leadership team largely dedicated to Peterborough, to our people and to our services. We look forward to the opening of the Living Lab, the second teaching building at ARU Peterborough in autumn 2024. This is great news for the public and students studying at the ARU in the future. We welcome the celebration of the Windrush generation through the flag raising ceremony and Refugee Week celebrations. And we must ensure that we continue to recognise the contributions that these people have made not only to our city, but also to the UK as a whole. We very much look forward to attending the Peterborough Pride celebrations this Saturday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Day, for being commendably concise. So we now move to agenda item 6, questions with notice by members of the public. There has been one question submitted by a member of the public. So we move to question 1 from Mr. Nick Cracknell. Mr. Cracknell, would you like to ask your question, which is in relation to unauthorised encampments?
Yes, thank you. In May and June of this year, there were 5 unauthorised encampments in Orton alone and more elsewhere in the city. It seems that grass bun.
Could you speak a bit closer to the microphones? Seems to be a bit of a problem. Are there any other? Pippa's taking one round.
Right, so I'll start again in case you missed
start
it.
Again, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yes. In May and June of this year, there were 5 unauthorised encampments in Orton alone and more elsewhere in the city. It seems that grass buns are the most effective defence against these, but our ward councillors have been told we cannot have them as they will cost upwards of 20,000 to install in the green space adjacent to where I live in Orton Brimbles. And Aragon will charge even more to maintain them. Is this the case? And if it is, I cannot see how we will ever protect our green spaces. Obviously, we cannot put a price on the distress these encampments cause to residents, but has the council undertaken a cost-benefit analysis to measure whether it makes greater economic sense to spend the money on the installation and upkeep of the buns, or to spend it on court and clean-up costs instead?
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Councillor Allen to respond to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Cracknell, for your question. Apologies about the tech issues at the start. It's always upsetting when your mic packs up. I can tell you that from a professional standpoint. Anyway, moving on. I fully understand the impact unauthorised encampments have on communities and the issues they sometimes cause, and indeed sympathise with those communities that are affected. Defending areas of land against encampments is an option often used by the council, and when budget allows or where there is an overwhelming need, preventative measures will always be installed. Officers take into consideration a range of factors before deciding on appropriate measures, including the number and frequency of the encampments, location, impact, type of measures, and costs involved. Just as important as protecting land, though, is having a robust enforcement process in place for moving encampments on, which this council has, as well as ensuring the police use their powers when thresholds have been met. Finally, I can assure you I have spoken to officers about the piece of land you refer to, and I can confirm they are looking at measures to try and protect the area.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Mr. Cracknell, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes. Is it possible for the council to quantify the distress these encampments cause to communities with a view to the council then looking to make cuts to any other budgets so it can afford the buns?
Councillor Steve Allen, if you'd like to respond to the supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have the gentleman with the sharp pencil sitting next to me. Councillor Cole's in charge of our budgets, and I think it's something we should always look at, protecting the interests and amenities of residents. But do recall that there are now measures brought in by the Conservative government that allow the police to be much more forceful with moving on these illegal encampments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen, and thank you to Mr. Cracknell for coming and putting the question forward. So we now move to agenda item 7, which is petitions. Those presenting petitions will have 1 minute to put their requests forward. Are there any petitions from members of the public? No, I don't think there are. Are there any petitions that members would like to put forward? If so, put your hands up. Can't see any hands up. So that's all. Thank you very much. So we now move to agenda item 8A to 8C, which are questions on notice. There have been 7 questions submitted by councillors this evening to members of the Cabinet. All questions have been published on the council website, and so we'll take them as read. So, question 1 from Councillor Hogg. Councillor Nigel Simons, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Hogg in relation to food waste and caddies?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Yeah, food waste liners are currently in stock and are being delivered to residents by waste collection crews when ordered online. Our team has made excellent progress over the last few weeks, catching up with the backlog and reaching the stage where all historic orders will be fulfilled. Moving forward, we will continue to ask residents to order food bags online. If any residents have difficulty, they can always ring the call centre and they will happily put the request through on their behalf. Whilst we appreciate that the process may feel slightly more complex for some residents, it is essential that council manages the supply carefully to ensure there are bags available to all households that need them. We will keep this process under review and revise it again if necessary. We are confident that we have a sufficient supply until the next order is received in July. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. Councillor Hogg, do you wish to put a supplementary question?
I certainly do, Mr. Mayor. So from that reply, I gather that there are still some backlogged orders still to go out. In fact, we did in Fletton Stand Ground, we offered our services and were able to clear the backlog for our ward. So I just wondered maybe if other councillors might want to get in touch with Aragon and see if that they can do so in their wards too. Do you know how many bags are still outstanding?
Councillor Simons.
No, Councillor Hogg, I don't know exact numbers, but I have obviously been told by residents that they're still waiting for a supply of these bags, and I'd welcome any councillors to contact us, and then we can see if they would like some bags to give to the residents. Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. Question number 2 is from Councillor Cole. Councillor Allen, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Cole in relation to domestic abuse?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cole, for your question. I guess you'd call it your maiden question since being elected in May, so welcome and thank you for your question. Peterborough City Council currently spend just over 800,000 on domestic abuse and sexual violence services per annum. This is a combination of the in-house IDVA service, strategic work and awareness raising, and commissioned specialist services. Peterborough Women's Aid are currently commissioned and funded to run the refuge provision in Peterborough. They are also funded for 2 specialist posts that are provisioned through the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, and these are co-commissioned with the Peterborough City Council. An outreach service to provide support for all victims of domestic abuse was established in 2022. Peterborough's Women's Aid was unsuccessful in the award of this contract, and the service, Domestic Abuse Support Service, is now delivered by Impact, IMPACT, KT. All services are commissioned following national procurement legislation and go out to an open tender, allowing providers, including specialist domestic abuse charities, to apply for the funding. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Cole, do you have a supplementary question?
I do. Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Given the recent increase in homicides of women in our city, aside from police interventions, what additional policies or services have Peterborough City Council adopted in their safeguarding strategies to prevent yet another woman from losing her life and having it so brutally ended?
Councillor Allen, if you'd like to respond to the supplementary question.
I'm going to find that difficult to respond to, so what I'd like you to do is send me that question offline and I will respond. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now move to question 3 from Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Allen, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Stevenson in relation to the possible use of Pleasure Fair Meadow car park for a hydrotherapy pool?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Stevenson, for your question. Pleasure Fair Meadow car park was in fact sold by the council to the Peterborough Investment Partnership, PIP, several years ago. In the last year, it was sold by the PIP to Meacham Homes. There are currently no plans for the development of the Pleasure Fair Meadow land, and it remains in use as an operational car park for the city. However, this is an important site for our city, being located at a major gateway into the centre and opposite our flagship Fletton Quays development. We will need to think carefully about any future development to ensure it's of high quality and aligned to our ambitions for a vibrant and thriving commercial centre. As members are already aware, the council has no duty to provide hydrotherapy facilities. We are, however, following with keen interest plans for a new hydrotherapy pool and treatment facility as currently being proposed by an accredited medical practitioner in the city, and of course would welcome involvement of others able to put forward similar projects. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Stevenson, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Allen, for your fulsome response. So if not at this site, then when will the council help find some land for a community hydrotherapy pool, as previously agreed at a meeting of the Cabinet on the 11th of July 2022?
And Councillor Allen, if you'd like to respond to the supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the follow-up, Councillor Stevenson. We did say that we would use our best endeavours as and when we could find land. I don't think it's a proactive search, it's as something comes up that was in the council estate that we could offer for that purpose. Sorry? Oh, for sale, yes, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We now move to question 4 from Councillor Kayum. And it's Councillor Allen again, I think. Seems to be answering a lot of questions this evening. Councillor Allen, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Kayum in relation to alternative hydrotherapy pool provision?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kayum, for your question. Despite the council having no statutory requirement to provide hydrotherapy services, we have supported the trial at the Lyme Academy since the autumn of last year. During the trial, the average occupancy has been as low as 15% per week. And although we have worked hard to promote the facility and to relax the rules about charging for carers, there are no indications that usage is likely to increase, regretfully. We provided this service because of the significant demand we were told required hydrotherapy support. But as you have identified, this regrettably has not translated into actual take-up. Looking forward, the council will be supportive of proposals for provisioning of hydrotherapy facilities in the city by health practitioners in the care and rehabilitation sector, as well as, of course, keeping in mind any opportunities for land that can be identified for operators to purchase for the new facilities to be developed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Kayam, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Councillor Allen, for that honest response. Do you also pledge to reflect the needs of less able-bodied persons and those with disabilities within our city going forward? And are you able to cite any examples within the council's remit where this important cohort of people have been prioritised in policies that have been introduced recently? Thank you.
And Councillor Allen, if you'd like to respond to the supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kyham. I can assure you that officers in those areas are cognizant of the needs of those with special demands and special needs. We have a disability champion in Councillor Tyler who always advises accordingly, and we will take our responsibilities very seriously in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. We seem to be having commendably concise responses to questions this evening. It's really good. So question number 5 from Councillor Iqbal. Councillor Coles, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Iqbal in relation to the extension to the loan for the Hilton Hotel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Iqbal, for your question. On the 13th of March 2023, Cabinet approved an extension to the Hilton Hotel loan to the 31st of December 2023. There are several reasons for the extension. COVID slowed everything down. Access to the site was severely restricted for a considerable period. And following the easing of restrictions, there's been a shortage of both labour and construction materials. You'll find the full details in the Cabinet report, but I do remember making this statement some time ago in this council and assuring you with great hope that it would be ready by July. I'm just sorry to say that that hasn't been possible for the business to provide it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Iqbal, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your response. What assurance can you provide that the loan is secured against the asset? And what will happen if the developers default? Will the outstanding loan, including interest, be repaid by 31st December? And how likely is it that a further extension will be requested? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Iqbal, and Councillor Coles, if you'd like to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for trying to be as brief as possible. 100%, we would own it, yes, and it would be fine. We wouldn't necessarily have to extend it.
These answers are getting really concise now. I think that's really good. Okay, so we now move to question number 7, which is a further question from Councillor Stevenson. And sorry, I've lost the page. Sorry, I'm trying to be too clever by looking ahead in the agenda. Sorry, 19. Sorry. Yeah. Apologies for this. We'll get that. Okay, so Councillor Allen, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Stevenson in relation to unauthorised encampments and antisocial car use?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and no worry about that little delay. It gave me a breather. Thank you, Councillor Stevenson, for your second question for me to answer. The council officers work closely with the police and other agencies to respond and resolve these and many other issues. Due to the community impact both have, we need our residents to have every confidence that we are tackling these issues in partnership. I appreciate your concerns and thank you for bringing them to my attention. I will raise these issues at the next Safer Peterborough Partnership Board meeting, at which the police will be present, and will also liaise with the police and Prime Commissioner on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Stevenson, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Allen, for entertaining another question from me. Does the council have any plans to extend the availability of enforcement officers to late evenings to assist the police in their efforts to stop the antisocial use of cars or antisocial behaviour at unauthorised encampments while the behaviour is in progress?
And Councillor Allen, if you'd like to respond to that.
May I investigate the potential of that? We are conscious that enforcement officers can have a definite use in our city, and indeed we have now enforcement officers doing the city centre area, additional resources in that respect. So let's see if that can be apportioned to the area of your concern. Thank you.
And question number 7 is a second question from Councillor Hogg. Councillor Simons, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Hogg in relation to dealing with potholes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hogg, for your question. The council and our highways contractor Milestone are committed to ensuring our roads are as safe as possible. This includes maintaining high performance in relation to pothole repairs. The latest data from 21-22 shows we repaired 2,681 potholes during that year alone. As we are always keen to take advantage of the latest developments, we are pleased to trial the new Pothole Pro machine in Peterborough. The data is now being analysed by Milestone, and all findings will shortly be presented to us. We are, although, looking at alternative to the Pothole Pro technology, and we'll be trying different options to ascertain their effectiveness too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. Councillor Hogg, do you have a supplementary question?
Just a brief one. Do you have any idea as to what the timescale on that decision will be?
Councillor Simons.
I'm happy. Well, I don't have actually timescales, but I'm happy to share the data once we receive it.
Thank you very much. So we now move to agenda item 8D, but there haven't been any questions submitted by members this evening to representatives on the combined authority. So we now move to agenda item 9A, which is in relation to an employment committee recommendation on new values for Peterborough City Council. Councillor Alison Jones, would you therefore like to move the recommended declarations?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would. In October 2022, the corporate leadership team requested a set of new City Council values to be developed as part of the implementation of the new corporate strategy's key priorities. These new values are to be enablers of the sustainable future City Council priority, specifically around how we work, how we serve, and how we enable. The intention is to incorporate these values across the entire employee life cycle during recruitment, development, performance, and promotion. They will form an integral part of the work being done over the next 2 years during the People and Culture programme. This programme is looking at the development and growth of the City Council's workforce capability in line with current and emerging ways of working today and beyond, linking the value proposition to current and potential employees that will attract, retain, develop and motivate our people in the context of what the city and its citizens needs. Having the values incorporated into all aspects of an employee's life cycle and communicated both inwardly to all staff, members and associates, as well as outwardly to residents, employers and visitors, should enhance employee engagement and improve retention to enhance Peterborough City Council as the employer of choice. The proposed values have been collated from nearly 400 members and employees and associates. The 6 values are respect, integrity, transparent, collaborative, innovative and inclusive. The goal was to capture the values suggested by the majority of people whilst incorporating some of the additional language in the descriptions under each value. The 6 values have already been approved by the corporate leadership team, the extended corporate leadership team, Cabinet Policy Forum, Improvement Panel and the Financial Sustainability Working Group. Then on Thursday the 8th of June, they were also approved by the Employment Committee. Therefore, the Employment Committee recommends that full council approve the Peterborough City Council values so that communication of these values and their purpose can be commenced. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Jackie Allen, will you second the recommendation and either speak now or reserve your right to speak later?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the recommendation and I'd like to speak now, if I may.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I'm happy to second the recommendation of our values at Peterborough City Council and pleased to have participated in a more detailed workshop and discussion. An organisation that embeds core values into its culture, puts people first and ensures everyone matters. As individuals, it will not be surprising that some of us will have preferred values. In fact, I queried why a value that is important to me didn't make the final 6. But if we truly adopt and embrace the overriding set of principles, then we create an environment that operates at the highest level of office and in the public interest. Elected members, councillors, I hope, will embrace the values as recommended in this report and also remind ourselves of the 7 Nolan principles, which those in public office, including councillors, should abide by and take time to ensure our actions always mirror those principles.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to call upon any other speakers, and the only one I've got so far is Councillor Heller. So if we just allow Councillor Heller to speak, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In supporting the proposal put forward by Councillor Jones, might I just say to members not present just how well the Employment Committee was chaired by her good self as newly appointed into post. It was a very pleasant meeting. Members, our officers have spent a great deal of time, effort and expertise to widely consult and define these values. And what we are being asked to adopt this evening has been widely shared and accepted as the right and proper principles and behaviour for our council staff and members to rely upon, promote, practice and embed within our day-to-day activities and internal and external relationships. Where necessary, I hope we do indeed find reassurance and comfort, knowing that they're there to be referenced to and shared, proud in the knowledge that we are all accountable to them. I fully support the recommendation, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heller. I can't see any other speakers. Is that agreed then? Thank you. Okay, agreed. Right, so we now move to agenda item 9B, which is in relation to a cabinet recommendation for the 2023 Council Climate Change Action Plan. Councillor Simons, would you therefore like to move the recommendations?
I would, Mr. Mayor, yes. The Council declared a climate emergency in 2019 and we committed to becoming net zero organisation by 2030. Since then, we've produced an annual action plan to look at how the Council can achieve this goal. The report consists of 3 sections. The Council's carbon footprint from year 21-22, which details the emissions that came from our buildings and vehicles. 2, progress on the commitments made in previous action plan. And thirdly, the commitments we're putting forward for the Council to adopt for the next year. Some of the highlights of the report are the introduction of HVO into our highways vehicles by replacing obviously diesel with HVO, saving around 90% emission. This was introduced in February 2022, and so carbon savings will increase in future carbon footprint calculations. The Council has been successful in receiving funding for tree planting with around 560,000 for planting and maintenance in the last couple of years, and nearly 150,000 for developing tree planting plans. Officers are also researching a number of carbon reduction policies which could be introduced in the future. These include procurement plan, which is important as the goods and services we purchase are expected to be responsible for a significant amount of carbon emissions. The commitments for next year include the development of comprehensive roadmap for the Council to become net zero carbon organisation. This will give us more detail on costings and projects required to achieve this. We also hope to expand our offer of carbon literacy training for staff and councillors. The training aims to share knowledge on climate change and encourage carbon reduction to be central to the projects, policies and decisions that the Council undertakes. This report has been supported by the Climate Change and Environment Scrutiny Committee. I ask the Council to support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. Councillor Sainsbury, will you second the recommendation and either speak now or reserve your right to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Can I call upon any other speakers? We've got Councillor Nicola Day, we've got Councillor Wiggin, and I've got Councillor Harper. Anyone else at this stage? Okay, so we'll go to Councillor Nicola Day then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Greens welcome this Council Climate Change Action Plan, which has gone through both Climate Change and Environment Committee and Cabinet. On the 24th of July, as been noted, we as a council declared a climate emergency, and this is the 4th edition of the action plan to reduce emissions across the council. Again, it's good to note that carbon emissions have reduced from the previous financial year and that HVO fuel is being used across the highway service, with emissions expected to reduce further in future years. However, we must press for HVO to also be used by our refuse fleet. They've been procured and they're designed to use HVO fuels. We're also pleased that there are now heat decarbonisation plans for 14 of the council's buildings, and the energy efficiency studies have been completed for 25 of the council's highest emitting buildings. We really look forward now for these plans that have been worked on for some time to be turned into actions. Of course, we're also pleased with the success in securing funding to plant new trees, and that the Woodland Accelerator Fund enables us to employ an officer to work with PECT to developing tree planting plans. The proposed 2023 commitments include the development of a roadmap to net zero emissions, installation of solar panels and LED lighting for suitable buildings, and implementation of a carbon reduction procurement plan. This report demonstrates that we are leading the way on carbon reduction, adapting to climate change and helping to reduce city emissions. I do ask members to support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Day. And now I'd like to call upon Councillor Chris Wiggin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And as this is the first time I've spoken in full council this year, may I welcome you to your place.
Thank you.
One of the first things I did as a councillor when I was elected in 2019 was to strengthen the declaration of a climate emergency, and I'm very proud to have done so. So I'm very pleased also to speak for the first time since my re-election this year on the carbon action plan. It's the climate change action plan. It's really important that we keep this going until we meet our targets and beyond. Was really pleased with the work that the Climate Change and Environment Scrutiny Committee did last year as a new committee. I'd like to thank all of the officers who helped with this report, did a fantastic job with the committee chaired by Councillor Day, and to all who attended that committee, including the co-opted members and youth council members. It really worked well as a committee. I'm sad to have stepped down from that this year, but I look forward to continuing to follow the progress on this. I endorse everything that's already been said about the progress being made. One thing I wanted to draw the council's attention to is the use of glyphosate as weed killers. It's something I've noticed is still happening. Indeed, on my own street in Hampton, I've spotted it. I've been talking to Charlotte Palmer about it, and I look forward to seeing the results of the trials that are ongoing with Aragon to hopefully eliminate completely the use of this this chemical in our city. And that's all I've got to say. So I'd like to ask everyone to support the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wiggin. I've got Councillor Harper and Councillor Strangwood also. So Councillor Harper first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We welcome the action plan and thank all those involved. They've done a great job, and it's a really good report. There is sort of a question in this that I'd like, and we did commit to going out to the public and ask councillors to go out and arrange effective feedback sessions with residents. I just wondered if we could have somewhere included how that went, how many of them actually took place, and where will we get to see the actual information or what was shared by the residents when we make our decisions, because I can't see the bit in there that says so many residents said this and what the suggestions were. So it'd be useful if we could have that. But other than that, it's a great report, and I would commend it for everybody to agree to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harper. Now move to Councillor Strangwood. I think it's the first time he's spoken at a council meeting, so welcome to you.
It is, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, one small observation more than a question is obviously this sort of action plan's taken us in the right direction. Now it's obviously full of figures. Is there any way future sort of editions of it could be graphically represented?
Right, yes, thank you very much for that contribution. What happens is at the end of the debate, Councillor Simons has an opportunity to sum up, so hopefully he will respond to that question. Thank you. And does anybody else want to speak? Sorry, Councillor Simons, you you get a chance to sum up at the end, so you'll
Just
get.
make a comment. Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Okay. Could you repeat the question for him then?
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, the action plan takes us in the sort of right direction. Don't think there's any disputing that. There's obviously a lot of facts and figures in it. My question sort of was, is there any way that the next edition of it could be more graphically represented rather than sort of with figures?
Okay, thank you for that. And Councillor Simons, if you want to think about your response to that. So are there any other councillors wishing to speak? I can't see anyone else. In which case, I'd like to call upon Councillor Oliver Sainsbury to exercise your right to speak as seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some really good points have been made, and I'm sure Councillor Simons will reply to them and take them on board. But apart from that, I'm happy for Councillor Simons to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I now call upon Councillor Simons to sum up and respond to any points that have been made.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Day about the HVO and refuge vehicles, and we are considering that and working with officers and Aragon to bring that forward. And I agree that's something we need to do. The Piri project obviously is going to be very important going forward. Glyphosates, we are very aware of their use and we want to reduce that, but we are highly diluting it and only using it absolutely where we need to, because there's no alternatives that we feel are suitable at present, unfortunately. The public engagement, Councillor Harper, absolutely. Yeah, if we can get some data and get that to you, I'm happy to do that. The report, more graphically, yeah, I think you're right, Councillor, and we'll look at that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. I haven't heard any opposition, so can we take it that that report is agreed then? Thank you. Great. So we now move on to the exciting part, which is an agenda item 10, which is in relation to the record of executive decisions. These are detailed on pages 63 to 71 in your agenda pack. How this works is that the leader will introduce the item, and then any questions that members wish to put forward will be answered by the leader unless he refers them to another member of his cabinet. I would remind councillors that they should ask questions that relate to the decisions in the reports, and all questions should be relevant to the actual decision. People have been really concise in asking and answering questions, but could I ask that continue and that we don't have any unreasonably long preambles, just get to the point. Can I also ask members to note that once I've moved on, we can't go back and sort of ask questions from a previous page. So, Councillor Fitzgerald, could I please ask you to introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Taken as read before you, starting on page 63. We'll go through it at your discretion, Mr.
I'll
Mayor.
do that. Okay. Thank you. So if we start going through on page, are there any questions on page 63? Councillor Hogg, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm a bit perplexed. We've got an item here, which is the Peterborough Investment Partnership, where shareholder cabinet committee considered the report and resolved to note. I note that this is not specifically a decision, and it kind of shows that this arrangement with the PIP effectively gives decision-making process to something outside of the council, and I just wondered. This seems to be winding up now. Is this something that we are moving away from and closing the door and having a much more transparent council going forward?
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. Councillor Fitzgerald, do you want to respond to that, or do you ask a colleague?
I have no idea what he asked.
Councillor Hogg, would you like to repeat your
I'm
question?
not quite sure what his question is.
So the question is that the PIP is being wound up now, and I just wanted this item shows that we weren't able to make a decision. We were just noting a report from an outside company, albeit the fact that we are a shareholder of that company. It just seems that we've got ourselves into a situation where these convoluted constructions of companies has now meant that decisions can't be properly scrutinised, like, for instance, the sale of the car park from the PIP to Meacham Homes. Is this unpicking of the PIP going to be the final death door on this kind of arrangement going forward?
So he's asking about the transparency of the process.
Well, it's perfectly transparent because the note, and I wasn't at the committee, Steve chairs it, but look, it's very, very simple. There was a report to note the oversight of our involvement in that company, just the same it is in any other company. But I think you're mixing a load of other things up about the PIP and whether it stays as it is, whether it doesn't stay as it is. Those decisions have not been made. And also, whether we do deals of a similar nature in the future, well, why wouldn't we? The PIP has been very successful and has brought a lot of development. So, but that's a matter for Cabinet and the Chief Executive and officers to determine how we do business. But as far as I'm concerned, the particular note about that, a report was presented and noted. And that was the decision about that decision.
Councillor Hobbs got a
So I guess
supplementary
supplemental to that.
question.
I mean, you say that the PIP has been very successful, but the deal on Northminster, for instance, right up to the last minute, it got pulled, and then we had to do a re-evaluation in order to get the full value for that land. We've got the situation here.
You're talking about a different PIP.
Sorry, Councillor Fitzgerald, don't interrupt him, please.
But it's part.
Sorry about that.
This is part of the Peterborough Investment Partnership. So you said it's been very successful. The Pleasure Fair car park PIP, for instance, all they've done is bought the land and then sold it on, done nothing with it. So in order to fulfil their loan obligations, so it hasn't been that successful, and it has been far from transparent. We've not been able to scrutinise some of the decisions because of that. So I have to say that I disagree.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I will, I disagree entirely, but I'm not sure what that. Well, I'm not sure that was anything to do with the decision. You're asking about decisions on the day. The decision was to note a report, not what was in the report or about the PIP in general. So the decision was noted, and we can talk offline, as we will do, no end, no doubt, even though it's been explained to you 100 times, there is no problem with it. It has been successful. It's delivered a number of things, but business has to move and take stock of its surroundings and the way it is. But they're all different PIPs. That was PIP Northminster you're referring to, by the way.
Okay, so any further questions on page 63? Moving to page 64. Page 65, page 66, and Councillor Kayem and Councillor Cole. So we'll take Councillor Kayem first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a really simple question regarding the procurement of a framework agreement for provision of specialist decluttering and deep cleaning services, which is a total value of the framework is around £700,000. I was just wondering, what is it that we're aiming to, which platform service are we aiming to declutter and deep clean? And why do we have different service providers here as well? Thank you.
So who wants to respond to that one?
Mr. Mayor, obviously there's been some change in personnel on this side, so I could attempt to answer it because I think I know the answer, but I'll get the officer to reply to you in person about why that is, Councillor Kayem.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, and Councillor Coles, I think, was the next one. Councillor Cole.
I've got a question about the child weight management procurement, Mr. Mayor.
Going backwards now.
It was on page 66.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to allow it, but we've actually got plenty of time, so please go ahead with
Thank you,
the
Mr. Mayor.
question.
The child weight management procurement, I was wondering whether the services are going to involve the weight assessment of children who are included and using childminder services. In my experience, this service is vital to pick up children who are grossly overweight or grossly underweight, as it can be a signal for other services that may need support. So I was just wondering whether the child weight management service is going to include children who attend childminder provision.
Okay, who would like to respond to that one?
Well, thank you. Again, I'll respond, but just for the benefit of new members, once we've moved on, we don't go back. Sorry, I wasn't being funny. We'd moved on to 67. Again, I'll get the officer concerned to write to you personally about that particular decision because it has been taken and the cabinet member has changed since then. So I don't want to give them an opportunity tonight without being fully aware of the papers that surrounded it.
Okay, is there any more on 67? No, okay. Page 68. I'll do this slowly. Page 69. No one. Page 70. No. Oh, and we've got Councillor Bisbee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we haven't got the member here tonight, but it's a decision award compensation. We've had a number of these in the recent months, some very expensive ones. I was just wondering what is being learned by these decisions to ensure that it doesn't happen again, and how it's been passed out to people for them to learn where the mistakes have happened. I also like to know is, are some of these decisions because our partners have actually made an error? And if so, why are we paying for errors that our partners may have actually occurred with, done these things with? So could I have that in writing or sent out to everybody from the member?
Yeah, sorry, you're asking the question in relation to the
That's the
recommendations of the
bottom one,
local...
cabinet member for children's services, education,
Right.
on page 70.
Yeah, in
down at the
respect of
bottom.
the item about the local government ombudsman.
It's yes.
Yeah, okay,
So
fine.
is this to do with just the council, or is it one of the members that we partner with? And if we are paying for our members' mistakes, and where's the learning of this, and how is it being put out to our members and ourselves moving forward, so that we don't have these issues again?
Okay,
Thank you.
understand. Councillor Fitzgerald, who's going to respond to that one then?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll respond in part, but Councillor Allen, I believe, has a reply as she's working with Councillor Ayres. Inevitably, these always come up from time to time. Nobody can ever give a guarantee that they won't come up. But in this particular case, Councillor Allen, do you want to pick up the response here? Jackie Allen, that is.
Okay.
Thank you for your question. Councillor Bisbee, you may know more than me the reason why these things happen, but just to say it's always difficult, has been looked at closely by the cabinet member and satisfied that the correct amount of money on this occasion has been paid out. We can get a more written detail answer sent to you.
Thank you. So are there any further questions on page 70? In which case we move to the final page, which is page 71. So that's your final chance. No more questions. Okay, thank you. So we now move to agenda item 11, which is in relation to the record of combined authority decisions. It says there have been no combined authority decisions reported to the council since the previous meeting. I find that a bit surprising because there have been meetings of the combined authority. Deferred. Okay, all right. Fine. Okay, so that concludes all of the business that we have. So thank you. That's the end of tonight's meeting. All members and sort of officers, and I'd also like to extend the invitation to any members of the public as well, invited into the Mayor's Parlour for some food and refreshments, which the Mayor has actually organised for us. I would invite councillors to contribute to a collection to cover the costs, and any surplus over and above that will go to support the mayor's charities. So I'd like to thank you for attending and call the meeting to its conclusion. Thank you.